Hold on just a second. Okay, go for it.
Hi, everybody. We're very happy that you can join us here. My name is Maureen Jordan, and I'm co-chair of Chesterfield Township Democrats. I have to say that I thought we were going to be, when we stopped for the summer, I really thought we'd be meeting in person by this time. And unfortunately, that was not meant to be. And so we'll have to continue to meet by Zoom until the county library opens its meeting rooms again. Possibly in sometime 2025, I don't know. Anyway, just kidding. We're all welcomed Joe Biden's COVID vaccine plan last week. And so we're keeping our fingers crossed that, of course, that enough people will do, especially the mandates at work, will get vaccinated so we can go back to our normal lives again. So. Anyway, we are looking forward to hearing from our speakers this evening. But first, we're going to have Kathy Merrick, our membership chair, do a few announcements, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. We're so glad to see you for the first meeting of this 21-22 year. And just because our meetings are still virtual, that doesn't mean they're going to be any less exciting or relevant. In fact, please, right now, mark your calendars for our next meeting, which is Tuesday evening, October 12th at 7 p.m., which is we're always the second Tuesday of the month. We are going to have a candidate forum with all 6 of the Democratic senatorial candidates for U.S. Senate. This is for Roy Blunt's seat. You know, Roy is leaving us in about a year. And we have all 6 of them are definitely coming. There's Jewel Kelly Jr., Lucas Coons, Gina Ross, Tim Shepard, Scott Sifton, and Spencer Toder will all be with us, and they'll be answering the same questions. And when you register, you will be able to submit all the questions that you have, and hopefully most of your questions will be chosen so that we can really be some of the first people to hear them and to compare what they want for our state. So that, and then we will have more exciting programs throughout the year. And just one last thing, even though we're not meeting in person, we are still continuing to contribute to some worthy progressive causes and candidates, and some of whom you'll meet tonight. And because of that, we would like to ask, please, if you can renew your dues anytime from today through the end of the year. You are paying your 2022 dues, and they're $25. And you can look on our website, which is chesterfielddemocrats.org. Sorry about that. You can pay them there, or in our newsletter. We'll have a monthly newsletter, which you should get before the end of this week. Always there's information about where to send a check, which would come to me if you'd prefer to do it that way. So thank you so much for being here, and I'm going to kick it back to Maureen to get us started with our first speaker.
Thanks, Kathy. So as we announced sometime this year that we have 2 guests for every event. And the first guest, we feature a speaker from an organization where we can, all of us can volunteer or support in kind or with donations. So we thought that since St. Louis is welcoming thousands of Afghan refugees here very soon, there's probably some already here who were rescued in the last few weeks, that we would have Kelly Moore, the Community Engagement Coordinator at the International Institute of St. Louis, best tell us what we can do to welcome our new neighbors. And she has agreed to stay, so if you have questions, you can ask her questions as well. So I'm turning it over to you, Kelly.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Maureen, and everybody on the call for being here tonight. It's great to be here. I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the International Institute, because some of you may have heard of us and know of us, but may not know all of the services that we do. So I'm going to talk about our services first, and then I will get into some of our volunteer opportunities and give you some updates of what's been happening with us in the last couple of weeks. So the International Institute of St. Louis is really a welcoming center for new Americans. And when I use the word new Americans, I'm really speaking about any foreign-born individual who has found that St. Louis is their home. we want to be able to open our doors to anybody who is looking for resources within the community. And so we sometimes like to say that we're a one-stop shop, or we also have so many different partners that we can, if we can't help the people who are coming to our agency, then we of course refer them to other agencies that have the right resources. One of the things that we always like to encourage new Americans to do is enroll in our education program. Since COVID, we've moved our education team to a virtual platform. So we are currently helping new Americans with citizenship classes, and we are doing limited English classes and mostly preparing people to, all of our English classes are based on skills, life skills. So we break it up into sessions of different life skills that you have while you're here in St. Louis. So that is, healthcare, education, or employment, just community offerings like going to the grocery store, going to the bank. And so we really try to assess the English classes to help have new Americans adjust to life pretty quickly when they get here. The next thing that we work on with them would be our workforce development program. And that is a program that is encouraging employers, helping employers find qualified candidates for their workforce. So, and right now we see lots of different openings, and we have to keep in mind that new Americans, immigrants and refugees have a wide range of skills that they come to the United States with. So not only are we looking for those entry-level jobs, but we also look for jobs that people have higher advanced skills like engineering or nursing or professors or things that maybe we can get our new Americans involved with. We also surprisingly you might know that we have a social work program. So within our social work program, we have caseworkers who are there to assist new Americans with their mental health needs. We are able to provide counseling sessions. In our social work program, we also have an anti-trafficking, human trafficking program that's followed under our social work program. And we also deal with something called preferred communities, which preferred communities is where we can assist immigrants and refugees who need additional services besides the ones that we offer for the new refugees when they come. When new refugees arrive, the refugee program here in the United States is very fluid. We at the agency sometimes only receive 1 to 2 days notice when a family arrives. So with that, before the family arrives, we have to secure housing, set up the housing, and make sure staff's available to pick up the families from the airport. Within the first week of having a new family come to the agency, we are quickly introducing them to a caseworker who's somebody who typically speaks the same language as the person coming. We also have to get them ready, enrolled in class. Excuse me. These Zoom calls at home can sometimes be a little confusing. Sorry for the interruption. So within that, we do rely on landlords within the city limits to help us with having housing. We're looking for the housing has been one of our biggest struggles actually within the last, I would say decade, because housing around South City where the agency is located is becoming really popular. And so we see that the rents are getting higher and higher. And typically when new families come, they have a limited income at least for the first 3 months. So the 3 things we look for when we're looking for housing is always price, resident, or like, I'm forgetting the word now, but occupancy, how many people can be in the apartment, and then of course if it's relative or near public transportation. So that is really where we, in the first week of arrival, we are working on trying to make sure that the family is secure in housing. There's also, you know, if the family comes with children, we have to worry about school enrollment, and every new American who comes to the International Institute through the Refugee Resettlement Program is required to have one doctor's appointment. So we make sure that that happens as within the first month of arrival as well. All of these services that I've explained, the education, the workforce, the social work, and of course our resettlement program, are funded through various federal money, private donations, and private grants. So we are constantly looking to have funding be provided for these programs, for these essential programs. All of the programs I've mentioned so far are at no cost to the immigrant or refugee who comes into our agency. Another program that I wanted to highlight is we also have a micro enterprise program, or the International Institute Community Development Corporation. And this is a program that helps individuals secure loans for either small businesses or advancing their education or furthering their capital, like either buying a house or buying a car. So within this program, in the last 10 years, we either started or expanded over 200 businesses in the region, and we are therefore adding to our economy. In the last year, when we see small businesses not operating, you know, or closing down, we've actually had 3 very successful businesses pop up, and one of them happens to be Habibi Motors. If you want, they are a company that helps with race cars. That sounds like a weird industry that's so popular right now, but it's a very popular company. It's called Habibi Motors. And we've also had 2 or 3 different restaurants open. There's a new Bosnian restaurant in South County, and there is another Thai restaurant, I want to say, in North County. So we are helping immigrants become financially stable at that point as well. Lastly, many of you have probably heard of our Festival of Nations. This is a big festival that we have annually. Unfortunately, in the past 2 years, we've had to do, well, last year we did a total virtual event, and this year we had our new president, Ray Obenson, who's been at the helm since February, offer a leadership inclusion leadership series this past summer. And if you're interested in looking to see what he has done, you can find our videos on our website. So we do try to communicate with the community what we do, what we can offer, and that we are here to help new Americans. A few years ago, one last thing before I get to our volunteers, a few years ago, we created something called the New American Alliance. This is a database of about, I believe it's now over 100 organizations that is either serves or is an ethnic organization serving immigrants and refugees within the community. So if you're looking for a Hispanic group or a Romanian group, or, you know, you can search in the database by ethnicity, and then if we know about it, then it will be in that database. That's called the New American Alliance. In terms of volunteers, pre-COVID, I would say that most of our volunteers, our regular volunteers, were working in our English classes, because at one time we had 7 English classes happening throughout the morning, afternoon, and evening programs. Now since we've gone virtual, we don't have as many opportunities for those English classes to have volunteers. But now what we're seeing is we're looking for volunteers to do bus trainings. That seems to be something that most new people need help with when they come, and even if they've taken the bus one time, it's always helpful to have a native St. Louisan help them with the second or third time of taking the bus. So bus trainings is a high need that we have right now. We also have something called Career Advancement for International Professionals, and what that group is we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have a wide range of skill levels of people who have come to the Institute for services. And so what we try to do with the people who have graduate diplomas or degrees from their country, we have a 4-week program. It's kind of like I would like to refer it to like a college college workforce program where we try to encourage them to look up associations that whatever their field is. So if it's engineering or nursing, we help them with their resume, we help them with networking. And then at the end of the 4 weeks, we match them with a mentor who has some connections to that field. So if you're an engineer out there and we have engineers in the program, then we would make that match and we would ask you to at least have 2 connections in the near future for that individual. So that is something that we're looking for. That's mentors for our CATE program, that Career Advancement for International Professionals. And for the past 2 years, we've also run an after-school program. And in this after-school program, we're also looking for mentors as well. So those mentors touch base with the students weekly, see how they're doing, and encourage support for their school work and their dreams per se. So all of this can be found on our website, which is www.iistl.org. I go ahead and put it in the chat. And I look forward to Nicole's presentation. I'll be available for questions after. Thank you.
Okay,
Oh,
are we, okay, so I'm sorry, Nicole, I was going to introduce you.
Okay, I'll take it. Thank you,
Nicole Rainey is the Director of Development at the ACLU of Missouri, and she uses she, her pronouns. Prior to the ACLU, she worked for St. Louis nonprofits College Bound and Catholic Charities. Nicole is also active in the St. Louis arts community. She co-founded the St. Louis Small Press Expo, which is a showcase of independently published literature, comic books, and art books. She is active in Maplewood municipal politics and co-founded the group Maplewood Community Builders to address the issues of discriminatory policing in her neighborhood. Now you are on, Nicole.
Thank you, Maureen. And thank you, Kathy and Brian, and all the people, 28 people who are on this call. It's so amazing. And it was so great to hear your words, Kelly, and to hear you talk about all of the people that you're resettling. It's just so inspiring. I'm just sitting here thinking about how wonderful it would be to help someone learn how to take the bus. And I hope that everyone saw that Kelly put her the International Institute's website in the chat so you guys can support that amazing work. I'm going to put a PowerPoint up. So I like to be involved in municipal politics. So I'm missing the Maplewood City Council meeting for this. And I wonder if some of your other if people are like watching the county council meeting and this at the same time sometimes. It's kind of, I bet some of you more wonky Chesterfield Dems are. So I'm Nicole. Nice to meet all of you. Just to get started, I want to tell you a story about this person. So I live in Maplewood, like I said, and I was not working in non-for-profits. I had left non-for-profits, I had left fundraising, and the ACLU of Missouri sued the municipality of Maplewood. They sued Maplewood. And the reason why they sued was because of this, this woman, my neighbor, Rosetta Watson. She had called the police more times than was allowable in the municipality of Maplewood. There was a nuisance ordinance, and she called the police 3 times because her boyfriend was not acting right and her apartment evicted her. So she lost her home. She became homeless because of this ordinance. And me and my neighbors were really upset. And we were trying to get the city to fix it and weren't getting anywhere. And the ACLU sued and they won. They beat the ordinance and now it's gone. And they put the rest of the municipalities in St. Louis County on notice that those kind of ordinances aren't appropriate, and they target women who are victims, and particularly women of color. And when this job came open at the ACLU of Missouri, I was so fired up and so happy that they had won and had succeeded in changing this really sort of intractable problem in my community that I had to apply for the job. So this is Rosetta Watson. She is why I have this job. She is standing in this photo. You can see sort of like the bricks in the background. She is standing in front of the house that she bought with her settlement money. So I am proud to say that she is no longer homeless and she is actively involved in her church and she's retired. She's having the good life that she deserves. So that's sort of a story that I like to use to introduce myself and to kind of give you a little taste of the ACLU. So today I'm going to give you just sort of a little more background on the American Civil Liberties Movement and who we are and what we do. I'm going to tell you about a few wins and then some projects. Maureen asked me to speak a little bit about the abortion bans that we're facing right now, especially with the news coming out of Texas. I know that's heavy on everybody's minds, and then we can have some questions and conversation. I am not an attorney. I'm not going to pretend to be one. I'm mostly a storyteller, but I have some insider information and I might be able to answer some of your questions. And if I can't, I'll be able to get the answers for you. So this is the mission of the ACLU, and I'm not going to read it to you, but you can read it yourself. And I am going to tell you that the American Civil Liberties Union is rooted in the Constitution. That's the basis of all we do. You know, we have a racial equity lens. We change based on from state to state. We have state affiliates and a national office, but really everything is rooted in the Constitution. And we interpret the Constitution based on what our attorneys think is correct. So we have our own interpretation of the Constitution, and we're nonpartisan. So sometimes Democratic groups agree with us and sometimes they don't, but we work together, and we also work with Republicans. So that's the ACLU of Missouri. I really like this picture. I took this picture myself back when the abortion ban was first passed in Missouri at a protest. And I really like it because I like the expression on this young woman's face who's like looking up at the sky. She's like, what? And I really, I included this. It might be a weird picture, but I included it in my PowerPoint and thought you all would appreciate it because her expression captures how I feel so much of the time, especially right now in this moment, as we're struggling with an abortion ban, COVID continuing. I feel, and a lot of people that I talk to all the time feel like we're, Biden is the president. We're still in sort of a cultural moment of change, struggle. And for me, all of that is captured in the face of this young woman. So I want to tell you a little bit about how the ACLU is structured. So we have a national office, a big national office in New York, and they have tons of lawyers and tons of different departments that specialize in different things. So they have a reproductive justice group. They have a special group that focuses on politics. They have a privacy watch group. They sort of have these big different groups for our sort of different buckets of work. And then we have these small state affiliates that operate kind of like grassroots organizations. But we have this power because when we have a special problem, we can call our national office and they can send in one of their attorneys to help us. So for example, when the city of St. Louis was thinking about contracting with a group to send spy planes to circle over the city to provide surveillance, we were successfully able to stop that in partnership with attorneys from our national office who'd help stop the plane surveillance in other communities. But ultimately, our Missouri affiliate is relatively small compared to other nonprofits. We have 17 staff. We have an office in St. Louis and an office in Kansas City. We do rent an apartment in Jeff during the legislative session. So we're pretty active in the Missouri State Legislature. And what we do is we have what we call, it's sort of jargony, but we call it an integrated advocacy approach, where we approach every problem through 4 different lenses. Like we have 4 different tools that we use. So the one that everyone knows about is our legal work. So we always, like, our tagline for everything at the ACLU is "I'll see you in court," and we do. We sue. That's our bread and butter. But we also have a communications arm, which has gotten really powerful lately, especially as digital communications has become such a huge part of movement work and systems change. So we have really powerful communications. We have a lobbying arm, which we fund through a 501c4. So sort of like Planned Parenthood, we have a 501c3 and a 501c4. And then we have a community organizing arm. And so those four things work together at the national level and at the statewide level to drive change and get wins. This picture is from a lobby day a couple years ago, and I really love it, but it's also really sad to look at, to see all these people so closely together without their masks on at the Capitol lobbying together. But we'll get back there, you guys. We're going to get back to the Capitol like this again. Some people look like this at the Capitol without masks on, but not us. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about how this sort of integrated advocacy approach leads to wins. And you can read these wins on my slide. So first, I want to tell you about the man in the picture. The man in the picture, his name is Bobby Bostic. He committed he was in a car with some friends who committed an armed robbery when he was 16 years old, city of St. Louis. He was not sentenced to life in prison. Instead, he was sentenced to 180 years in prison, which is important because people who have life sentences were granted parole in recent years through the Missouri State Legislature, but people who were not granted life sentences but were granted these different sentences were actually only recently granted the opportunity for parole. So Bobby's going to get a parole hearing, which is really exciting. But he is our client. We've been working on getting him free for a really long time. He's he's my age. He's 45. He's been sitting in prison. He's got like community college degrees. He's read every book in the library. He'll write you a very long letter. He's like this very nice person who's no longer who he was when he was 16. And we've been able to sort of serve him as our client, but also leverage his story to create a broader impact in the state, to create change for many people who are either received life sentences as children or who received these sort of crazy 180 year sentences. And so when we were fighting for Bobby, of course we stood on his behalf. Of course we did that, but we also told his story. I mean, I think a lot of you on this call are sort of communicators, marketers, and the importance, the power of the story, especially a story like Bobby's. And we told his story. The judge in his case herself admitted that it was wrong, and that's a powerful story. So we used our communications tools that way. And then we've used our advocacy tools and brought people like you to Jefferson City to advocate on behalf of Bobby and the many people like him who are sitting in prisons and jails. And it's working. It's really amazing. It's working. So I'm really, one of the reasons I put Bobby's picture on here is I'm really excited about his hearing. Something else that we've done recently that I'm especially proud of is protecting the right to free speech. We've protected the rights of protesters, people who were kettled in St. Louis in Black Lives Matter protests 3 years ago, people who were banned from the plaza in Kansas City last summer. We had this crazy case where people were some police didn't have rules necessarily for how to navigate protesters in Kansas City. So they responded by banishing the protesters for life from the plaza, which is kind of like the central west end of Kansas City, which is ridiculous. And so we were able to win that case. And as a lot of you have probably read, besides the work with Bobby, there's a lot of amazing criminal justice reforms that have passed through the state legislature in the past year. It's an area where, in an amazing twist, we're able to get Democrats and Republicans to work together. So funding the public defender system, banning chokeholds, and a few other really exciting wins. I also am really proud. We don't always talk about the successes in the Missouri State Legislature, but I also I'm really proud that last year we beat all of those anti-LGBTQ laws here in Missouri. And that took everyone. You know, the ACLU was working on that. Other groups out of the big cities were working on that, but also like probably people, you know, probably some of you in this room. I mean, you can raise your hand if you want to, if you were there. I mean, there are people, the Missouri State Legislature filed 26 bills to harm the LGBT community, particularly focused on trans children. You guys probably remember reading about the sports case, and we blocked all of them because people showed up and told their stories and talked to their legislators, and it was really a powerful example of it working, of the things that we do working, which I think, I don't know very many of you on this call, but I think I can make an assumption that sometimes we can get disillusioned with the system. You know, we call and call and call, we sign our petitions, we write our emails, we give our donations, we do the best we can. But sometimes it works, you guys. I'm here, I have seen it. and I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of all of you too who helped with that, because I know it was not just the ACLU. So what's ahead for us? We are focusing deeply in the next 3 years on 2 big buckets of work. We're going to have a big, deep focus on voting rights work in our state. As you know, we're in the middle of redistricting. And we're also going to focus really deeply on the rights to students in schools. So we did a lot of research, and we learned that African-American children and children with disabilities are unfairly disciplined in our schools in Missouri by a lot. Like you're 5 times more likely to have a suspension if you're Black in the state of Missouri. And it especially comes into play with corporal punishment, which is unfortunately still legal in the state of Missouri. It's not happening in St. Louis County, but it's happening in outstate Missouri. And so the next 3 years, we're launching a comprehensive campaign using all 4 of our tools to end corporal punishment in Missouri, and also to address these larger school to prison pipeline issues. When it comes to voting rights, I know that's something that this group is probably particularly interested in. We're waiting to see what happens with redistricting. You know, there's a lot of really amazing Fair Maps groups that I'm sure a lot of you know about that are working really hard to influence the redistricting process. And we're sort of working with them in the background, waiting to see what happens. And then if the map that passes is not constitutional, then we'll be here to file a lawsuit. Then, but the other things that we're doing sort of proactively to get out in front of the voting rights issue for now, before, you know, sort of while that's happening, is we're working on some proactive lawsuits around protecting the rights of people with disabilities to vote. Kelly, we can talk more if you want to, because we're talking about a proactive lawsuit to help find interpreters for voters. So as some of your some of your clients become voters, they may need interpretation services, and that's that process has been that process is hard in Missouri on purpose. And then we're also working on some legislation in the state legislature to help get the vote for people on papers. So the vote for people who were incarcerated, who are now on parole. So those are going to be our 2 focuses. If you follow us on social media, if you get our emails, you're going to hear a lot from us about voting and the rights of students in schools in the coming years, because we really believe that if we focus deep, we can make profound change. But we're not going to step away from the waterfront of issues in Missouri, especially in the state legislature. It's just too important. So we're going to be there to fight for the right to an abortion in the state of Missouri, which I'm going to talk about more, and other reproductive justice issues. We're going to be there to beat back those terrible bills that harm our LGBTQ community, and use our other tools to fight for the rights of our LGBTQ community. We're going to continue to work on reforming the criminal legal system We're going to continue to work on privacy stuff, especially in the city of St. Louis and more. I want to tell you guys about this picture really quick. These are University City High School students. You may have noticed the one young man has a U City t-shirt on. This is another lobby day picture. I think I'm just having like FOMO. I don't know if it's FOMO if no one's doing it, but I don't know if any of you are feeling this way at Chesterfield Democrats, that you can't lobby your electeds in person, or it's harder because of COVID. But this was a group of university high school students we took to the Capitol to lobby their representatives about bills that related to the rights of students. And some of those bills passed. One of the things they were lobbying that day, I think this was 2 years ago, was making more rules about restraints and seclusion for students in public schools. So, students who have certain behavioral issues can be put in restraints or sometimes put in seclusion rooms, and certain districts are using it a lot and not telling parents. So now if you restrain a child or put them in a seclusion room, it has to be like well documented. Their parents have to be notified. There's a lot more rules for it, and we were able to pass that with the help of Democrats, Republicans, and these beautiful children. All right. Next, I'm going to talk about the state legislature. Before I do, I'm showing you all this picture that for me really represents what it's like to lobby in the state legislature, to go there and to be there, especially during COVID. This is from last year. So this is not recent. This is an old picture and old news. There isn't an outbreak there this week to my knowledge, but it's, to me, to see all these sort of men in suits so close together during a pandemic, it just shows how hard it can be for people who are not in the dominant group to go to Jefferson City and to lobby for their rights. Like, it is hard. And when I look at that picture and I think about sending like, I don't know, like a trans child there to lobby for their rights, like, ooh, it makes my heart beat, right? So when you think about people doing that, it's powerful. When people actually take the time to go to Jefferson City to lobby for their rights and like be in this space with these guys and speak truth to power, it's powerful. It's powerful. And you guys know that because you guys do that kind of thing. So this is Mo Del VR. She is our legislative associate. So she's our lobbyist, and she's the one who goes there. So this is what she looks like. You can see the Capitol in the background, and she's there today because it's veto session. It's veto session this week in Jefferson City, and it's the week that the governor can veto bills that he doesn't want to deal with, but the state senators use it to kind of tell us a little bit about what they're going to be doing this year. Or this January when the legislative session starts. So it's like a little preview for what's to come. So we know they're going to be talking about voter ID laws, which they do every year, and we beat that back every year. They're going to be talking about the initiative petition process, which is really important. The initiative petition process is the process that we use when we use signatures to get things on our ballots. So things like Medicaid for All, Clean Missouri, all these things that we've seen on our ballots, like they use this initiative petition process. And it's really special that we have it here in Missouri. Not all states have it, but some people in our state legislature are trying to get rid of the initiative petition process because they don't like the people power. So we're fighting that in the state legislature. We're also fighting that in the courts, which I'll get into a little more. Critical race theory is continuing to be an issue, which is frustrating. I'm not going to get into it because a lot of people talk about it all. We can talk about it in the Q&A if people really want to get into critical race theory, but for us, we really see it as a straw man issue that politicians are bringing up in Missouri to distract from the real problems. We're going to be fighting for the right to an abortion here this January in the Missouri State Legislature. Some of our representatives have already said that they're ready to file that Texas bill here in our state. They got their notes, so we're going to be ready to fight them, and we're going to be working on the same anti-trans legislation that we saw last year, and we're also, like I mentioned earlier, going to be working on unlocking the vote for people that are still on papers, and also people who are incarcerated. And also Mo, when I talked to Mo to prepare for this call, she also reminded me that there are going to also be many things that we can't predict that are going to come up this session in the Missouri State Legislature. So we have to be prepared. For example, we didn't predict that critical race theory would be a big deal this year, and it was. So you never know. So Maureen asked me to speak a bit about Texas and Missouri's abortion bans. And I am not an attorney, but I'm gonna just tell you, oh, shoot, sorry. Oh, I guess I can't look at my notes. Oh man, I can't look at my notes and show this at the same time. Well, I just really want to get this right. So, so all of you know that we, that the abortion ban in Texas has taken effect. It took effect September 1. And all abortions in Texas have pretty much come to a stop. We were hoping that the Supreme Court wouldn't let that happen, but they did, which is really troubling. And they turned back on 50 years of precedent, which is especially troubling. And I want you guys all to know that we're not going to stop fighting it until it's blocked. It feels like the end of Roe versus Wade, but the people that are against the right to an abortion have been poking holes in this for a long time. This is another hole, and it's a long game, and we're going to keep fighting. Also, the SB 8 story is not over either. There's still, it still gets another hearing, so we'll see what happens. I also want to share that our Missouri abortion ban, House Bill 126, is not in effect, so you can still get an abortion legally in Missouri, but it's going to be heard soon. And the hearing is happening in federal district court, but it's not going to lead to an immediate ruling. So we don't know when we're going to get a ruling on that case, but we're continuing to fight it. We're fighting it in partnership with Planned Parenthood, our national office, and a private law firm. And I want to invite you guys to learn more with me next week. So we're doing a special call for our donors, but I wanted to invite all of you on this call to learn about the hearing that's happening next week on the Missouri ban. And our top attorney in the state will be there, and he'll be available to answer your questions about the abortion bans, both here and in Texas, and really give more of a legal analysis than I'm able to give. But really, what we say at the ACLU is, no matter what happens, we wake up in the morning, we eat our breakfast, we put on our suit, and we get to work to fight this shit. Like, we're just going to keep going. We're not going to roll over and die. We're not going to let the right to abortion be taken away. So what can you do? There's a lot of, I'm going to put some links in the chat to some events that we're having. We're having an event coming up that's sort of related, tying our school to prison pipeline work with our critical race theory work. So students are going to talk about that work from their perspective. And we're going to have a series on police accountability. So if those are two issues that are interesting to you, you can join us. Also, I invite you to reach out to me if you ever are interested in testifying in the Missouri State Legislature or writing an op-ed to your newspaper. Like, those are really great things people can do. And of course, donating. I mean, you guys are political people, so we can express our rage. We can express so many emotions through donating. We can express our rage. We can express our triumph. We can we can step into the fray. We can live into our values through donating. So I'll put that link in the chat too. And I also encourage you guys to make a gift to the International Institute because they're doing God's, I mean, we're not a religious organization. So I say this as myself, not as the ACLU, but they're doing God's work at the International Institute. But okay, so when I was really thinking about coming here today, there is a sort of like a deeper message that I want to give all of you guys. I'm going to stop sharing. Ooh, there's some good questions in the chat I'm seeing. So, okay, you guys are the Chesterfield Democrats. Many of you in our state have state representation who is Republican. Your voice is so important in the state. Like before I worked for the ACLU, I did not understand how powerful it is for individual people who live in Republican districts and Democratic districts to pick up the phone and make those personal calls. It really, I had never, at this job, I have met people who work in these legislative offices who do this lobbying for a living. And when people like you guys in this room, you 27 people in this room, pick up the phone and call and say, listen, Republican Senator, I think that trans kids should be able to play sports, or I think abortion should be legal, or like, it is important to me that people on paper should be able to vote. Like, I don't want you to, I really, it's a really big deal. And so I'm asking you to write op-eds, I'm asking you to donate, but what my biggest ask for everyone in this room is to like, please stay engaged with state politics. You might think it's a crazy train. You might look at pictures like that one I showed you of all those guys with their masks and think, I want no part in that. But it is so important that you stay tuned and that you like check those painful political emails and like on your lunch break, in your car, like make those calls. It just suck it up and do it. It really makes a difference. And we also have to stay, you guys, we also have to stay strong in this time. Like everyone says unprecedented, but like people like us who fight for civil liberties, you guys are all Democrats who like care about the rights of, working people, of immigrants, people who are incarcerated. Like, you guys got to stay strong, like do your meditation routines, take your deep breaths. Like, we need you in this for the long haul. We're going to win this fight. So that's all I have to say. That's my pep talk for you all. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And Kelly and I are now open for your questions. Okay.
Now I'm back. So this is great. You both did such a good job, and I've been such a fan of ACLU, and I've worked, with them on and off for the last year, and I can't tell you how great they are as an organization. So I'd like to encourage you to join with the ACLU in any way that you can. So we are going to open it up to questions, and I actually thought of one for Kelly, but then I guess there's a lot of questions in the chat. I'm going to have to open up my chat and look at them. But I thought about one that we're seeing a lot of wish lists going around for immediate household supplies and food and things like that. Can you speak to who people would contact, like if they wanted to do a drive on their own? Who's in charge of that, and where people can find the approved list of things that you need?
Thank you, Maureen, and for mentioning this. So it has been, I want, just two things is, in the last 4 weeks, we've put out a list of household items in the anticipation of refugees and parolees coming from Afghanistan. We were so overwhelmed by the support. The St. Louis community is a wonderful community. We have now filled our entire gym with donations plus an entire warehouse. So just in the past I want to say 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So we have actually, unfortunately, paused our collection items, you know, our household goods. You know, we probably we definitely have enough for all of the new people who are expected to arrive in the next 6 months to a year. Even maybe some coworkers are thinking we have enough for 2 years. So what we are encouraging community members to do in terms of donations is we have something that's always very useful would be Aldi gift cards or grocery store gift cards. Those are really can really help a family get a little bit ahead, so they're not spending their limited funds on groceries. We also, when we do have a way to donate on our website, and I just wanted to explain this because some people don't know. But we do have one fund at the agency called the TAO Fund. That's TAO, TAO Fund. And this fund is directly, this money, if you donate to that fund, that money goes directly to individuals who are in need. So it might be a family who needs another month's rent paid for, or maybe they have a medical concern that they can't afford. Eyeglasses don't fall under the insurance program. So there are things that families need that they need extra funding for, and that would be the TAO Fund. So you also have a choice, you know, the other funds would just be unrestricted funding, which is always welcome to considering the amount of grants that we receive, and that you can't spend money unless we have direct funding from grants for it. So unrestricted funding is always possible. So I'll put those 3 options in the chat, and I know Nicole's got like 3 different questions. So
Perfect. Okay, let me open up my chat. I've got to scroll here, make it bigger and scroll to the top. Let's see. Okay, from Joanne Hagloff to everyone. How about the anti-CRT bills, which forbid the use by teachers and college professors of certain words like oppressed, prejudice, discrimination, etc.? It's passed in some states already. Missouri GOP is all over this. Is the Missouri ACLU ready to fight this?
Right. Yes. And what we're doing right now is we're getting the voices of students. So we're connecting it to our school to prison pipeline work. So we're collecting voices of students through these events. We're sort of internally talking about our constitutional argument, because everything we do is rooted in the Constitution. And we're also making sure that we're keeping like a sort of an understanding in our hearts that it's something that the Missouri GOP is using to hide, to impress their supporters. And we're not ignoring the fact that we believe it's sort of a straw man or sort of a invented issue. Not to minimize it. It's still a big deal and still something we need to make time for, but it's we're not going to make it there's a lot of things to fight in the state of Missouri. I'll leave it at that. But good question. Are any of you, can I do this? Maybe I'm breaking the rules. Are any of you working on CRT with organizations that you're in, or groups that yeah. Does anyone want to, Maureen, tell me if I'm overstepping,
Sure.
but does anyone want to
fine.
and tell people how they can plug in to
Oh,
other
that's fine.
the organization?
Sure.
I mean,
And-
we're going to
and
be
Cindy
working on
had questions
CRT, but
if
it's
you want
not
to
our
raise
main
hands.
thing.
Yep.
Like, if anyone from like JCRC or somewhere else is here. Laura, you said you were. Joan? Oh, Dawn. Yeah, if you want to call people in to what you're working on, tell them.
Yes, one of the local in this region groups that is working on this, and some of you may have heard the name Heather Fleming. She's already been involved with the hearings that have been happening in Jeff City on critical race theory and equity education. She's the founder of Missouri Equity Education Partnership, which has a Facebook page, and it has a website, and anything that you can do to support her efforts are really good, because she's on top of this.
Anyone else want to say something about CRT? It's a big deal.
I just want to add to that. Heather's a friend of mine, and she's doing amazing work. I will link her Facebook page. There's also a private group, and they're doing a lot of good work. They're doing more educating the public than fighting what the right is doing, just trying to get the truth out there. But I will put the link to the Facebook page in the chat. I really think if you have the capacity, get involved with them because they're doing great work.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Laura. It's so important.
I'm looking, there was really good things in the chat. I'm hoping everybody's reading these because there are links. One of the questions we have is from Don Logue for the ACLU. What about litigation regarding the disparate impact rule in the state's administration of its affordable housing programs?
I know we've worked on some litigation around housing, in particular in Kansas City. Especially, in particular, we're worried about eviction moratoriums, but I can't speak to the disparate impact rule.
I thought that was
Sorry, Don.
that was pretty specific. I didn't think.
Yeah, but I can ask around and get back to you, Don, if you want to put your email in the chat.
So do people have some other questions? Because right now we have pretty much, I know our both speakers have done such a great job. I think you answered a lot of things that we probably don't have a lot of questions, but can somebody raise their hand or unmute themselves if they want to ask a question? Because for right now, we're out of questions.
It looks like Dawn has a
Dawn.
question.
Fine.
I just want to say thank you, Nicole, so much for your enthusiasm and for all of the detailed information that you have given us about what is going on in Missouri with ACLU. I am such a big fan, and I think that the ACLU is such an incredible force for good. It continues to be so frustrating in Missouri, even when you win the cases, that the governor decides, oh, well, I'm just gonna put off doing anything about that until another case comes up, until another suit is put against me to force me to enforce the laws. And so it's incredibly frustrating. So it's really, really great to hear somebody with such enthusiasm, and thank you for that.
I mean,
And the passion comes through.
I'm not trying to be overly optimistic, you know. I like Ta-Nehisi Coates, and he says something like, I'm paraphrasing, but like, there's dignity in the struggle, you know, like you just, like, what are we gonna do? Like, we have to keep doing this. And so, you know, I'm not gonna pretend like it's roses out there in Jefferson City, but we got to show up, y'all. And I know you guys do. I'm curious, is there anything else anyone else working on in this call?
Well, I was just going to observe, and I'm not sure if this helps Don Logue with the disparate impact rule, but
Yeah,
disparate impact does impact fair housing and discrimination. And Missouri did change its law so that we are not what's called substantially equivalent with federal law. So therefore, if someone is suffering any sort of discrimination for disability, race, familial status, any of those kinds of things, and there's a disparate impact, you can't go to the Missouri Human Rights Commission, or can you go to the St. Louis Civil Rights Enforcement Agency? Essentially, the public agencies are not available. To the extent that there is any ability to do it, it's either through people like Legal Aid, or I'm on the board of the Equal Housing Opportunity Commission, which is a private agency that does assist, and we can take things to HUD and file complaints for disparate impact where there is discrimination. So I don't know if that's what Dom may have been referring to, but essentially right now Missouri does not have substantial equivalency. So some of our state agencies can't get federal money for enforcement, and they just can't do anything. They're kind of stuck.
yeah.
So that's just an observation or sharing some information.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. That's very helpful. And thank you, Don, for bringing it up.
Do we have anyone else? That was very helpful, Dennis. You learned something about people you thought you knew. everything.
I am a big fan
Wonderful
of EHOC, the Equal Housing. What does the O stand for? Equal Housing
Equal Housing Opportunity Council.
Council. That's another one y'all need to Google.
Yeah. And work
And
closely
support.
with, we've worked closely with you folks on a lot of different
Yeah,
issues.
on that
So,
Maplewood case I was telling you guys about.
yes. Yep.
Very-
I recognize that as soon as you started talking about it.
Anyone else have anything there? What are you guys working on? It was nice to hear about the Missouri Equity Education Partnership.
I think a lot of us are in a lot of things and we're
Yeah,
all
fair enough.
stretched.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
That's
all of us are going to different Zoom meetings for different things. And I think it's just all working for the collective, be it moms or be it
Yeah.
anybody else who's working. So Dawn, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just,
Yes.
I would say, and thank you, Dennis, for the explanation on that. I think that, a lot of the policies in Jefferson City are either not always intentional, but clearly discriminatory against lots of different communities. And healthcare, in addition to housing, both, we're very deficient at the state level and even the local level in many respects, because people just don't have access to the services that under the Constitution, the state should be paying attention to, the general welfare of the citizens of Missouri, as opposed to policies that really attempt to strangle the delivery of services. We have Medicaid expansion, but that doesn't mean that the necessary changes are going to be made to the Medicaid program to allow access.
Yep.
And healthcare and housing are intertwined because with regard to disparate impact rule, if all the affordable housing is concentrated in neighborhoods where people can't get out to transportation, to get to school, to have work opportunities, to healthcare, and so on, then we have a system failure there. And in Ferguson, that's what we had in 2014. Was that exploded on us.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, John. That's very helpful. I appreciate you and Dennis.
So does anyone have any other questions for our two speakers? Dawn has her hand up.
I did want to say something more about the critical race theory thing that is going on in the region. Some of you may recognize the name of the group Missouri Prosper. It is a white supremacist group of angry parents who are working to try to support this manufactured crisis about critical race theory. And they are organizing community meetings and listening sessions all over the area. There's been about 6 of them this week, next weekend on Sunday. There is one in St. Peter's. And I'm going to put the Facebook event link in the chat here as soon as I finish talking. And they're organized by the Republican groups, and there I can't recall there are a couple of people that show up at all of them. They are members of the some education subcommittee in Jefferson City. Missouri Prosper is very dangerous, and as part of a nationwide crisis, manufactured crisis that's going on in every state. So I'm just going to drop the Facebook event in the chat here. So if anybody wants to show up, I'm going to be there. I think Heather's going to be there. We believe it's important for the other voices to show up rather than the anti-CRT voices being the only ones there. I'm sorry, it's a long link, but it's an event.
I wonder if they're even going to be safe. I would be concerned about personal safety. These people are nuts.
In the past, it has not been a problem so far. I'm not personally fearful about going to this.
Good. I'm glad.
Get them done.
Good. Be brave people. Okay. Anyone else have any questions? Well, this is good. We have a lot of
Amy has her
information.
hand up.
Oops, did I miss someone? I didn't.
Oh, Amy has her hand
Oh,
up.
Amy. Yes, I see it now.
So I don't know, I work with hospitals for vaccinations and for diagnostics for COVID. I don't know if the refugees need any, or the ACLU needs any help on getting Afghans vaccinated or getting them tested so we can be sure that they have access to vaccines, but I'm happy to help out with that. I know a lot of the people in the laboratory, they're ready to help. They just don't know really who to contact and things like that, just for logistics. So I'm happy to help out in that manner as I'm in healthcare. And Missouri Prosper, I was in that crazy Eureka community event in April. So they're not gonna hurt you, but they will scream at you, but that's okay, because that means you're getting, you're pushing their buttons, you know what I mean? So it's good to show up. That's it.
Amy, why don't you put your telephone number and your email address so that Kelly can follow up with you. If she needs to put it in the chat.
So yeah, I just sent her a coworker's email address as well. But I do want to mention that, we just got an update today, one of our staff meetings, that we have a lot of the Afghans. Some people have thought that they've already arrived, and we haven't had the influx that people think we have. So it's sort of like a long game here, and we're going to be resettling, throughout the next 6 months. We have been told that one reason why it's taking a little bit longer is that the Afghans that are at the military bases right now are waiting and getting the COVID vaccine at the actual bases. So we're still waiting on the rules about when they come, or when people come to the St. Louis, if they need a quarantine for 10 days or whatnot. So we have had also vaccine clinics at the Institute about 3 or 4 months ago, or early summer. So we are being proactive with trying to get the word out about vaccines and having them be available. But thank you, Amy, for bringing that up. And I have your email right here as well.
Well, Secretary Blinken did testify today that all of them are being tested and getting COVID vaccines. That's one of the clearance processes they go through. But that's not to say there may not be other vaccines that they may need here in the United States.
Right. I'm also focusing on their children, as the vaccines are not approved right now. So once they do get settled here, and then, a month, well, hopefully in the next month or two, Moderna will be approved, that we can really make sure that their children have access to vaccines as well.
That's great. Wonderful. Okay, am I missing anybody's hand? Well, great. I think this has been just such a great meeting and such great presentations. We really appreciate that you came to us. Both speakers came to us, and we appreciate our dedicated audience that always shows up and wants to hear the events that we have. So I look forward to publicizing, or we'll look forward to publicizing our next meeting with our candidates. And I think if that's it, really have a great evening. and rest of the evening and rest of the week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Nice to meet you, Kelly.
Bye.
Take care.
You too, Nicole.
We got to go put our kids to bed.
Yeah.